Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 41 of Powerbombshells. I'm Sam. That's Mel. You'll see that we are on a different day than we normally are.
Sorry, all the horns decided to go off. We've had massive windstorms. As soon as we hit the air, and like all the horns are going off.
Whoops.
So
You're welcome, guys.
all right. Sorry, guys. My whole town is hyped for this show.
Apparently. Well, we appreciate it, especially because
On
it's a
a
Saturday.
different day.
Yeah, it's a Saturday show, and we don't typically do those, but life things happen, and Mel's got some stuff she's got to do tomorrow.
Mel's got to make an appearance at the husband's Christmas party because it's important.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be there for that. So I totally get it. And so we decided we'd come live today, and then next week should be back to regularly scheduled programming. So thanks for coming to hang out with us a day early. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's literally just going off in the background. It's hilarious.
Sorry, you guys.
This is one of my favorite things. You know what it is? It's the first weekend of the month. They test the horns, and they have to go off for like 11 hours. But anyway,
okay.
We should talk about we should talk about Stokely Hathaway.
We should talk about Stokely Hathaway
because it was Disability Awareness Day, and this would be. I mean, not that mental health, and I mean they are and they aren't, but.
Right.
Many people with one have the other. So
right.
Let's talk about Stoke.
Yeah. So I was listening to Renee's podcast because I cover it for SE Scoops. So usually I listen to it and see what the big story is and see what's going on. And so prior to me even listening, somebody else from SE Scoops got the because they are in the UK, so they got the story while I was sleeping. But they had the thing about CM Punk, and there was a quote, and that's what everybody was focusing on. So I went to listen just to see if there was something else to focus on, and it turns out there was. The CM Punk comment was actually a part of the bigger conversation that Stokely was having. And so actually, before we get to that main part, so there's really something really funny that Stokely, this was what I thought was going to be my original article. And I did write about it, was Stokely was talking about how he got into the wrestling business. And he was a grad student in college, and his thesis was that pro wrestling is an art form. And to prove that, he was going to go to wrestling school. And his professors thought he was going to fail, and were like, all right, go ahead and see what happens. So he went to, I think he said he went to Philadelphia, and Claudio Castagnoli was his trainer. And he mentioned Chucky T and Orange, and I think it was Chucky T. Was it Orange Cassidy? I know Chucky T was also involved. I believe Orange Cassidy was as well. And then he said that I think his joke about how he's 5'10" on a good day, and he's just not very athletic, but he'd always been a really good talker. So he decided to move into the managerial side of things, and he said it must have went well because he graduated with his master's in performance arts. And he said he was doing marketing full time and then doing wrestling on the side, and then the wrestling kind of took off. And so that's kind of how.
Because he's awesome.
Yeah, he is. And I was like, well, the performance arts makes a lot of sense, because I was like, I can see definitely how that plays into it. So I thought that was really funny. So then he gets into why he actually left the WWE, because if you remember, he left it. He was released back in April, which was a big surprise to everybody. But it turns out he had been offered a contract extension, and he turned it down. The reason being is because he was having some mental health issues. And back in February, he checked himself into a facility in Florida, and he was saying that in Florida, they treat mental health patients like prisoners. He said that he was in a really small room that was basically a cell. He was on a metal bed that didn't have sheets. He said they had the sink was like a motion sensitive type thing. He said I had a little bar of soap and little tube of toothpaste, and he said that he's like, I basically just paced the floor because you couldn't be in your room from I think he said they had to be out of their room at they woke up at like 6 a.m. and then bedtime, I think lights out was at like 9 o'clock. So in that period, he basically
those aren't like mental health institutions that he needed. And unfortunately, because we have the system we have, we know that if you don't have insurance or you don't have good insurance, whatever,
yeah,
hard to get. And those facilities, like I've had friends who have had positive inpatient mental health experiences. That's not what he had.
No, not at all.
He essentially, he went in and they were like, this guy, institutionalized him. And
like,
that's actually, I mean, that'll make you worse.
Yeah, and he was saying like he's like there were therapists there, but he's like we had this thing called music therapy, except it really wasn't music therapy. Like they gave us a list of songs and they were like, tell us which song that you resonate with the most and why. Like that was really it. Like, and so he said he checked in on a Friday and he checked out on a Sunday. And then he said he felt terrible. He said he's like, I mean, it made me think, well, like first, maybe I'm not as crazy as I think I am, which is the term he used. And he was like, but then also it made me realize like, I never want to go back here ever again. Like he said, it didn't help him at all. And he said what has helped him is he said I pray every day. He was like, I know he's like, it may sound, cliche or whatever. And he was like, but it helps me focus and center. And he said he's trying to figure out like the medication situation. He had been on medication. He took himself off of it. He's like, I know you're not technically supposed to. He's like, but I did what was best for me. He said the medication was making him feel like he wasn't present. And he said, I couldn't be creative. And he's like, and I have to be creative in my job. And he was like, and so but
you can't just be given medication. That's
right.
Again, we're in a scenario here where this
and he wasn't technically diagnosed. From what he said, like he wasn't even really diagnosed with anything. So it's not like he was on medication for like ADHD or anxiety or anything like that.
Yeah, that's not being treated. Right. That's just here's a pill. Have a nice day. Because that's clearly not given to you by like that's the doctor I see all the time. I went to a clinic and I need help. And that is a sad state of affairs when any human being in this place with as much money as America has, when they need help, that's what they get. That is pathetic and sad and wrong. And
it was just really sad to hear because he's definitely trying. He said that he has like a really close, and he didn't tell anyone that he was checking in. And he said he had minor communication because they take your phones away. And he said I could contact with I was in contact with my pet sitter. Yeah. And he was like, he said, I didn't tell anybody until I got out. And then he was like, and then I told them. And he said, like, he kind of wished that he had not leaned into the comedy stuff so hard because he didn't know how to tell people, hey, this is how I feel. This is what's going on with me, because he thought nobody would take him seriously. And so he said he didn't know, and that he just didn't know what to do. And so he got to a point, because he said it got to before he checked into this facility, he said it got to the point where it was really debilitating. And he was like, I couldn't get out of bed. And so then he leaves and he's like, and then we have pre-tapes because he was still in WWE at this point. And he was like, and he hated it. And he was just like, basically I had to suck it up and get my shit together. And he was like, so when they offered me the contract, he was like, I couldn't. He's like, I just had to leave. And so he said like he was going forward with this for two reasons. One, because his current coworkers to understand him, because he was like, I'm actually really introverted. People think because I'm so funny and because of how my character comes across, they think that's how I am all the time. And he's like, and that's not the case. And Renee was talking about how she first met him when they started working together in AEW. And so she was under the impression that, he was just really outgoing and stuff like that. And then she realized that he's very introverted, because like, he's like, I'll come to the arena. And he's like, and I'll go up in a suite and I'll read. And he said, and it was funny because he and William Morrissey, he's like, we're actually very similar in that way. He was like, he's really introverted too. And he was like, we've actually become really good friends. And he was like, one day I was sitting in a suite and somebody knocked on the window and I looked, and he said Morrissey like waved at him. And I guess Morrissey was going to do the same thing, was just to get some quiet.
That's and so really awesome.
Yeah. And he said, so he just like, he's like, I just want to come to work, do my job, and go home. He was like, it's not that I'm being like difficult or anything. He's like, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, I don't want to know about it really. He's like, I have to for like my peace of mind while I'm working. He's like, and he said that, like, I guess he kind of made it sound like the firm like gets it and they understand him. And like, he was like, I just don't want people to think that, that I'm being rude or anything like that. And so then his second reason for coming forward was because he was like, I'm a Black man. And he was like, and Black men with mental health issues, sometimes we don't get the help we need. And he was like, and I'm trying
Clearly.
Yeah. And he was like, when he said one of the things that drove him to this point was, he was like, as a Black man in wrestling, I have a lot more pressure on me, because he was like, of course everyone gets critiqued, but he was like, people were going like beyond that type of stuff. And he was like, and overanalyzing everything. And he's like, and I put a ton of pressure on myself. So the combination of all of that was just really hard on my mental health. And so that was another reason that he came forward. And so he did mention CM Punk, but it was going along with the whole situation, because so he's like, I went through all of this. I left WWE. I came to AEW, and CM Punk handpicked me to work with him. And that's a lot of, and that was basically validation for him. And that was his whole point of even mentioning CM Punk. And I guess he did use the words that he's no longer in the company, and whether he misspoke or whether, or whatever, people focus on that one tiny little part when that's not at all what Stokely was even trying to say. He was just saying, after all of this, somebody of that person's caliber wanted to work with me. They handpicked me to work with me. And for what? And he was like, I'm not picking. He's like, people are picking sides. He's like, I'm not. I'm just saying this was a situation. We were supposed to work with him. He's no longer here. And so now we're trying to find our footing, and we're trying to figure everything out. And he was like, and that's literally, he mentioned CM Punk just in that context, and everybody took the stuff because his words were CM Punk is no longer in the company, which, whether he misspoke, maybe he just meant CM Punk is no longer here. He's not here currently, but people ran with it.
It's ridiculous. It's clickbait. I mean, so, yeah, instead of taking, that's why I really appreciated the fact that, like, and we'll retweet it again if we haven't, from our Powerbombshells tweeter.
Yeah, I tweeted it earlier. Down. I'll retweet it again.
I really appreciated the fact, and you brought it up in a group we were in, and even Garrett was like, I noticed that first, like, because it was like a lot of people, they jumped straight on, like I said, pardon my French, but click whores going out there for the clickbait, with the spin and with the CM Punk thing, and totally missing the point of
And so
there's more and more male wrestlers opening up about this stuff,
right. Especially a Black wrestler,
as a woman who has a man in her life who, it's hard for men to admit and deal and be treated properly, and
then you also have
infrastructure for men to take care of their mental health.
Right. And then you have somebody like Stokely, who is known for his personality. He's known for his humor. He's known for being happy.
But that's coping.
Right. I mean, exactly. And so
I'm not someone who uses humor to cope with my personal
who does that?
anxiety and personal mental health issues. But if you were someone that might do that, people might misconstrue that as you being pretty well adjusted.
Right. And like he said, he was like, I leaned into
that makes it hard.
The humor. And it does. And he
easier. It's easy to hide there because it's hard to face mental illness.
Well, he even said, like, I don't say anything on social media because I don't think people would be like, who cares? And so, and I felt like that was one of the things I kind of took away from this, is he seemed to believe that nobody would care. Like anybody who are fans of his AEW viewers, that they wouldn't care that he suffers with whatever mental health issues this is. And so I hope that by coming forward with his journey, and I hope that he understands that people do care about him. We do care about his mental health. That's why we're talking about it. Like we care about Stokely, and we care about we've talked about mental health several times on this show. We have people in our lives that have different things going on with their own mental health. And so it is something that is isolating and makes you feel alone, but then there are so many people who deal with it. And so that was my whole point when I shared the article. This is how we destigmatize mental health. We talk about it.
We're getting better. We keep doing it with all of mental health, and then men's mental health is something that it's just like women's like physical health is lacking. Men's mental health is lacking.
Right.
There's these things that go on where it's like we treat the one like the one and the one like the other, and it's like, no, that's not how it functions. And
exactly,
men are literally like beaten over the head with don't be emotional, and that's not a real world to live in.
No, it isn't.
But and it's great that especially I'm glad that you latched onto it, brought it up. You've got Eddie Kingston, you've got Jon Moxley, you've got Stokely Hathaway, you've got people that represent multiple kinds of men from multiple kinds of backgrounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, I know personally that it helps me to say, well, that guy is cool with talking about his mental health, and he's not cool with it. It's not easy.
Of course
he's
not.
Trying to share his experience so that I was listening to someone recently and they were like, ask for help and understand that there are people out there that do care about you, like you just said. And I think that's, it's too bad that people decided to completely miss the point of what he was saying because I get it. It's the biggest story of the year, but the year's almost over, and I think we can let it go, and we're all resetting, and everybody's breaking up, and
and then you see, and it was nice to see, like, Stokely was out on TV, like, right after that, and so it was nice to see him. He was at work, and so I guess I'll go into, because this was one of the topics I wanted to talk about, and it fits in with everything with the firm and Stokely Hathaway. So I know a lot of you don't watch the YouTube shows like I do. And so you are missing things that are happening. So, and we saw a little bit of it this week with Ethan Page and Matt Hardy. So a few weeks ago, Isaiah Cassidy was in a match with, why do I always forget who he was wrestling? Anyway, so if Isaiah, because
I'm sorry. It's
okay.
I'm gonna get better because we are gonna be doing some Dynamite, a little bit of extra Dynamite content, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm more prepared. So more up to date on this.
Well, so the private parties contracts were already purchased by the firm. They bought them from Jose, the assistant. So then it was Matt Hardy, because Matt Hardy is involved with Hardy Party again. And so if Isaiah lost the match, then the firm would gain control of Matt Hardy's contract. So, of course, Isaiah lost. Matt Hardy's contract is now owned by the firm. Ethan Page and Stokely are Matt Hardy's bosses. They have banned him from using the Twist of Fate in any of his matches. And if he does, he will be fined $50,000. Well, he did it on Elevation a few weeks ago. Fined him $50,000. He shoved Ethan, I believe, or was it Stokely? I believe it was Ethan. So they suspended him for a week. Then right after that, that's when MJF fired Stokely on TV. And so Matt Hardy comes back, and it's still in place. So he and Private Party are mostly relegated to YouTube stuff. And so this has just been an ongoing thing. Matt Hardy keeps being defiant. And so Tuesday on Dark, Ethan and Matt had this really great segment that was backstage, and it is like, of course, because I'm a regular viewer, I enjoy being able to see these things. But this is something that should have been on Dynamite, because Ethan Page is so good. And so is Matt Hardy, and they just play really well off of each other. So they're just going back and forth. And he was like, why do you keep being defiant? He was like, finding you was not working. So now I'm going to take it out on your kids. He was like, Private Party are your kids. So if you act out, I'm punishing them. And that made Matt Hardy livid. He was like, how dare you? And so that's what we saw the other night when Stokely and Ethan came out there, and Matt Hardy just starts deleting and everything. He's being defiant. And that's why he was like, we're trying to get somebody else over right now, Matt Hardy. And he was like, and then Matt Hardy leaves, and you see him at the tunnel, and he's flipping them off and things like that. And then last night during Rampage, during the lumberjack match, Matt Hardy helped Orange Cassidy, and Ethan got mad. And so you see them going back and forth, and then Ethan turns to Isaiah and says something to him, and Matt he lost it. And then he was like, and he told Isaiah to leave. And so it's like, I think it's going to turn into something bigger than it already is, and it's been really enjoyable. But for people who aren't watching the YouTube shows, you're not getting the full context of everything. AEW did post the promo between the two of them backstage, and I did retweet it, and it's something I would go out of your way to check out. And Matt Hardy's podcast is another one that I listen to for SE Scoops, and he was talking about the situation on his podcast, and he was just saying talking about how good Ethan is, and he was like, he was like, it's nothing against Stokely. He was like, but Ethan does not need a mouthpiece.
I'm gonna echo the fact that because I love Ethan Page, I the first time I saw him in an indie ring in my nights at Columbus Hall, I've been I just immediately went and followed him on Twitter after that. He had such fun charisma. But I want to echo that I see people talking about what's the big deal about Ethan Page. So you're right. It should have been on Dynamite. Right. So people can understand.
Yeah. And John Alba.
This is why, because he's a good wrestler and he's a lot of fun, and he does have he has a weird kind of he's got that heel edge, but you can love him also, kind of in-ring presence thing that is something I actually that's one of the kind of things I kind of like. I like the little edgelord in the
and John Alba is Matt Hardy's host, or he hosts, and he just
awesome.
Tosses him questions. So John even said, he was like, I get the point of putting this stuff on YouTube because people that's value there for the people who are watching. He's like, but this should have been on Dynamite, and Matt agreed.
Big important stuff, because it does seem like there's a group of people that don't understand what's the big deal about Ethan Page, and it's
and who cares about Matt Hardy, and why is Matt Hardy
at least show a part of it on the show then,
right? And also with all of this, Matt has been teasing Broken Matt for a while. He's been, obviously we see him deleting, but he's been doing that. He's been teasing it on the show. On YouTube, his new shirt hints at it. He posted right a few hours after Full Gear ended. He posted an old Broken Matt video, and he was like, "Welcome to my abode." And I can't remember. It was just a short little clip. So he's teasing that stuff again. Obviously, they went away from it because it wasn't working as well without fans being around, because it was obviously when Matt debuted, it was during the COVID era. And so it wasn't really working without the fans. But now that the fans are back, it seems like, and that's something that people have been asking for, is when are we going to see Broken Matt? When is Broken Matt coming back? Are we getting, all of this? And then people thought once Jeff had come that maybe we were getting Brother Nero as well. And so it seems like the timing has never been right, because he was doing the Big Money Matt character for a little bit, and then he broke away from that because of his stuff with Private Party. And he even said on his show this week, he was like, Private Party is going to be part of my legacy. I'm helping these guys. So whatever happens to them and whatever is going to reflect on me. He was like, so I want to take care of them and make sure that they are positioned well and that they're going to be able to function well. And then he was like, and so then you have Ethan Page doing all this unnecessary stuff. So there's a lot of layers to it. And I think that people should, I mean, of course, and I'm a big Matt Hardy fan. If you watch the show, you know that.
Right.
You guys know how much I love Matt Hardy, but I really enjoyed what they're doing with him and with Ethan, because I think Matt has such a creative mind, and I think that he's just obviously as a wrestler, and he's obviously on the back end of his wrestling career. He knows it. Everybody else does. So I'm glad that he has taken somebody like Private Party under his wing and is, helping them to grow and to become their own characters. And we saw right in the early years, that match where they beat the Young Bucks in the very first year of Dynamite, that was a huge match for them. And then it kind of tapered off, and then they kind of pushed them a little bit and it tapered off again. So I think putting them, in this situation, I think could definitely help them. So maybe in year 4, maybe that's a tag team we see moving further up the ranks, and they could be a pillar in the tag team division. One of these young guys that are, this young team, you've got your MJF, you've got your Jungle Boy, and you've got Britt Baker and things like that. So in the tag division, then maybe it's going to be Private Party. Maybe in the next, that's the one in 3 to 5 years, you come back and see that's your homegrown tag team. But, besides the Acclaimed, that you're putting this effort into. And I think that's kind of where they're going with this. It looks like anyway.
I just, it's interesting to me just because you're talking about them, and they must be, they're on YouTube a lot, right? They're on Dark and Elevation. Because when I was watching Rampage yesterday, I was like, they were like, "Oh my God, is that Private Party?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, is that Private Party?" Like,
it is.
Are they on TV? And I realized I was like, okay, they're coming out here though, like, and then now that you're saying that, but that's a little frustrating. It just
it
because
is.
For me, I was like, oh God, where are these guys been?
Yeah,
because
they've been on YouTube and they've been they've been
Dark and Elevation.
So and Matt had even said like prior to Full Gear, before he was saying that whoever won the trios title, that Hardy Party was coming for them. And so it looks like they are also going to be working at a trios some. And Matt had even mentioned several episodes ago that he's never held a trios title. That's like the one title like that he's had, obviously. And so he was like, so that would be cool to hold a title I've never held before and to hold it and to hold it with these guys who, I think are the future of the tag team industry, and it can be huge in AEW. And he was like, I want to, I would love to win a trios titles with them. So, it would, even if they don't win gold, it would be cool to kind of see them chase and have some new trios. Or, I don't know that you move Matt Hardy to Ring of Honor, but they do have this. We talked about it last week. They have a 6-man over there with Dalton Castle and the boys are the current champions. So we talked about that. Maybe you move Dark Order over there. Well, maybe you move Private or Hardy Party over there and let them do some stuff. So yeah, so it looks like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And so now that we move from the serious stuff, we'll say hello to our guests. We're not ignoring you. I just didn't want to stop with that real quick. Hello, Gaza. Our Stardom ambassador is here. We are glad that you are. Thank you for joining us.
Someone else.
Yes, we do.
Some time. It's okay. I said hi in the comments. I was good at it. Oh, you clicked
I appreciate that.
We keep doing that. Ha.
We keep pulling out, but thank you for coming. Hello. So yeah. So that's what's going on with that. And then so the other big stuff, I guess, that happened this week on Dynamite is somebody we actually mentioned last week. And what would happen when they came back? Well, we found out.
Yeah. You said, what are they going to do with him? And I guess maybe we're looking at a program with Jon Moxley again.
Yeah. And so if you've somehow missed Dynamite this week, Jon Moxley was talking about how it was funny because he said Death Taxes and Jon Moxley.
And that's the thing now. And I mean,
and because our long running joke on here has been, when the hell is this man gonna get his 6-week vacation? And then he comes out, and so my friend texted me and he was like, oh no, it was before the show, and it was like, we're gonna hear from Jon Moxley. And so he texted me, he said, Sam, this is not getting us vacation.
Still no vacation.
Like, damn it. And then he's clearly not
to be like, we must get this man a vacation.
Yeah, and clearly this man is still not going to get a vacation because now he's entering
graduating.
He's entering a feud. He's not entering, he's restarting a feud with Hangman Page. So yeah, because he said there's not a man. Obviously, he was doing the setup. He's like, there's not a man in this locker room. There's not a man in this building. There's not a man in 100-mile radius who has the balls to tell me that this isn't, I can't remember the exact phrase, but basically that that I'm not the guy. And then we hear the famous Hangman Adam Page music hit, and the place went nuts. So that man is still very
pretty good considering how freaking dead that place was for some of the some of the stuff. They were weird. That was a weird.
It was a weird audience. Yeah, but they love them some Hangman, and Hangman just comes strutting down the ring right in Jon Moxley's face, and then Jon Moxley he made the jab about do you I'm sorry, do you even remember?
Do you even remember?
It's like, what an asshole. And so they, and then the fighting was insane. Like, they're just going after each other. Jon Moxley falls off the ramp because he doesn't realize where he's at. And he falls off of it. And I was like, oh God, please.
Agreed. Yes, we agree. We totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That was really good. And then I didn't pay attention the first time. But then I saw a GIF later, or maybe it was a clip, and Mox left out the Hill entrance.
Oh,
and Hangman left out the babyface entrance. So I guess we're getting heel John Moxley.
Dun, dun. This is funny, actually, is that you're right. The world does need John Moxley and Renee with the baby on, like, doing like all the touristy stuff. Like I lived in Seattle for years and years, so like going all around the Space Needle and like going watching the flying fish, taking pictures. Yeah, please, never gonna happen.
I need this.
Yes,
Mox riding Dumbo at Disney. Tony Khan, give this man a vacation so I can see Mox riding Dumbo at Disney. Damn it. Just let it go.
I think Okada went for like 700 and something days when he had that title run there. So I think maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Him and Moxley will have to finally take vacations together someday.
And I mean, need footage of
even that. Okada wanted to take time off in the summer and then ended up showing up for Forbidden Door anyway. So
yeah.
It's tough when you're like one of the most important dudes in your your promotion, I guess.
Right. And then we also had the return of Ruby Soho on Wednesday, which was a nice surprise. Nice. Yeah, and it was and I didn't even make the connection of it being in her hometown, like thinking, oh, she might come back. Like I didn't even click, and then I was like, oh, she's from Indianapolis, so of course she would be here. And so I'm glad to see Ruby back. She had all the receipts for Ty and got her back for it. And then she's changed her hair. She looked great.
She did look good. I hope that she can go somewhere now. You know what I mean?
Mox and Okada Falls Count Anywhere. Yes, please. All right, we're going to end up having matches over here. Look at this. Now we have Mox versus Suzuki.
Pretty sure Jim Valley's
I want that too. They did have
as a travel agent. We could book them a vacation and send them
a vacation. Working, and they had that show at Mall of America a couple months ago. There was the big show that they did, so they could definitely do a show there. But yeah, man.
So Okada versus Moxley is something I need to see.
God, yeah, me too.
But you know what? Okada versus Kenny Omega 5 is actually something I need to see more because Tony stole that from me, and
so
he owes it to me. So.
Yes. Mox versus Filthy Tom Falls Count Anywhere.
I'd watch Mox.
And Tom Filthy Tom had a match back in February. That is literally that's on my match of the year contender list that I keep. That match was amazing, and it was.
Yeah, did you give it 15 buckets of blood?
Yes. I did. I did. And speaking of Filthy Tom, I'm so behind. Thank you. It was Eric Cannon's promotion. I'm so behind on Strong. And last night I was like, I'm going to watch. I keep forgetting about Jay White versus Fred Rosser. And I was like, so last night I was like, I'm going to watch it. Then I was scrolling through, I was trying to navigate through New Japan World, and of course it's all kinds of tag league stuff, and so I missed last week's Strong, and I was going through and I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is Strong for my birthday. And I was like, wait, and the picture is super small and I can't see who's on it. Nikki couldn't figure out who it was either, and I was like, that's Tom Lawler. And I was like, and we couldn't figure out who it was for a minute. Nikki was like, that's Homicide. And I was like, we're watching this. I want to watch. I was like, I do want to watch Jay White versus Fred Rosser, but I need to see Filthy Tom versus Homicide. And I'm glad I ended up watching it because the first match was Pretty Peter Avalon versus Kita or Kaida. I think it's Kaida or Kita. I think it's Kita. But Peter Avalon is undefeated in New Japan Strong. He stayed undefeated last night. And then there was a tag match, and it was ELP and Chris Bay versus Blake Christian and Mascara Dorada with Juice on commentary. And Juice is talking trash about he's talking shit about Blake Christian. And so now the video makes sense because I saw a video a few days ago and Juice is talking all this shit about Blake Christian, how he's shit for brains and all this. And I was like, where did this come from? And I was like, well, if you'd been watching Strong, you would know. So he threw so Blake is on the top rope and Juice stands up and throws water at his back, and Blake turns around like, what the fuck are you doing? And so of course it cost him the match. And so now that's where that little thing has come from. And so that was a really good match too. And then of course Filthy Tom versus Homicide was awesome.
And I agree. Dazzle Filthy was great on that crossover show. I did actually finally sit down and watch a crossover show. And if I had time, I would have run. I mean, it was like everything I could do to not run over and sign up for Stardom. I really enjoyed those matches. I knew I would. All those ladies have a lot of just strength and charisma, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, like, the Shooter and Will Ospreay.
That match was great.
That ended up being, even though it was 5 hours, it was like 5 hours. I didn't feel like I spent.
I thought it went really. I really liked how they integrated the Stardom and the New Japan wrestlers to do stuff, and I thought it was really cool. And I loved the Filthy Tom and Shuri match versus Julia and ZSJ. Like, that was such a great match.
That was amazing. And it was Brian Alvarez was saying that, because he talks to Filthy Tom obviously often, was saying that he's like, this dude's never been more excited about it. He's like, he cannot wait to tag with Shuri. And I was like, hey,
that's his favorite. He said that's his favorite wrestler in the world.
It's so great.
Blake cannot catch a break. My sister and I were talking about that last night, about how he keeps getting booed in GCW because they're mad that he's making money, because he signed with AEW a while back. They've used him one time. I don't know if they're saving him for ROH or if it's just because he has so many other commitments with GCW. They're letting him do that. So he is like, I don't understand, because I love Blake Christian. I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? And so I want to, let's see. Adam says that Filthy Tom versus Yano was number 2 match of the year. Knoxville versus Sammy number 1. Never let me run a wrestling company. I think a lot of people forgot that Blake signed, because he didn't get a graphic, but it came out that I'm pretty sure he didn't get a graphic. I don't think he did. I think it was just, it came out that he had signed, and then they didn't. I'm wondering if they're saving
so many people and so little TV. I
think they're saving him for ROH is what I think they're doing, because he
seems like he makes more sense on ROH.
Yeah, and he was doing ROH stuff before ROH.
Is that an exact figure there?
I think so.
This is 8 million?
It sounds exactly right, is what it sounds like to me.
That was about 8.7 million wrestlers signed. Is what AEW's roster has right now.
And they have 2 hours of TV.
And 3 hours. Yeah, Rampage.
Rampage. So I was
that's a bad reaction. You should be glad that's network TV. We should all not be going, oh yeah, Rampage.
No, and we should. I do watch Rampage.
Rampage is better than Dynamite.
Last week's Rampage was really good. My favorite part about let me get rid of, I was reading this comment. But my favorite thing about last night's Rampage is that we finally saw Shane Taylor in AEW. He should have been there a long time ago. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And so there is a little backstory, because I saw some certain ROH historian complaining about this match last night.
Oh. He actually watched it in a timely fashion.
I don't know when he watched it. I just saw it on Twitter last night. And
I only say that because usually it's not up for him for the anyway.
Yeah,
ROH historians. We can't.
It is the hossiest Hoss fight, and it is more big meaty men slapping meat, which I'm a fan of. So I am like
one of Sam's top things.
It is. I love Shane.
Your
Taylor.
Version of it, my favorite things would be like destroyers and big meaty men slapping me.
Right. That's
we should make you a version of that.
And people doing and then I do love a little
parody for you.
I appreciate that, and I would love that. But so Shane Taylor showed up last night, and people are like, well, why is he here? Why aren't we getting the build up? Because that's what we do here with fans. So Keith Lee
we're so
and Shane Taylor
whinge like little babies.
Yeah, so they were a tag team in Ring of Honor and on the indie scene called PBK, which stood for Pretty Boy Killers. They were doing really well in the indies and in ROH, and then Keith Lee signed with Evolve. And so that was so last night he said you left Swerve behind 2 weeks ago, you left me behind 6 years ago, and you left JD Griffey behind in Texas. And I'll get to JD Griffey in a minute. So that's where the 6 years ago comes from, is because that's when he went to Evolve, which obviously Keith then went to WWE, and then Shane Taylor stayed and killed it in ROH as their TV champion. Probably the greatest TV champion of all time. He can fight Samoa Joe about that later.
We'll work that out.
Yeah.
We have plenty of time.
And so JD Griffey, I was looking up because I was writing an article last night for Daily DDT about that story. And so I was looking up JD Griffey. I don't know a whole lot about his relationship with Keith Lee other than, do you remember back when Swerve and Our Glory won the tag team titles, and afterwards Keith cut that really emotional promo that they aired later? And and he mentioned the one friend of his who had stage 4 cancer, and he mentioned another man named JD Griffey. JD Griffey is Shane Taylor's tag team partner for this match next Saturday. I don't know the full detail of their relationship. So I can't add a whole lot to that, but that is who JD Griffey is. He does have a relationship with Keith Lee. It's going into the story of Keith Lee abandoning people. So it was Swerve, Shane Taylor, and JD Griffey. Keith Lee has deserted them all. So now 2 of them want to fight Keith Lee, and now Swerve walks up grinning. And so some people are wondering if Swerve set this into motion.
Keith Lee can't be, you know what? So basically what you're telling me is you can't pin down Keith Lee. You can't hold a guy like that. He can't be pinned down. He must be his own.
Yeah. And he doesn't, maybe it's because he doesn't work well with others. I don't know. So that's where that came from. And so
asking his attachment style, so that very hilarious.
Yeah, and then also, so Keith Lee was on the Progress show in New York City in the summer of 2017. That was almost shut down due to the fire code capacity regulations. I do think I remember hearing about that. Yeah. So that's where that comes from. That's where we get the background information from. Sure, should there have been more build-up? Probably, but this is what Tony does when he builds pay-per-views. Shane Taylor, whatever gets Shane Taylor into AEW, or at least on AEW until ROH has whatever it has, I'm fine with. Shane Taylor should have been here the moment ROH said we're not running anymore, and they were bringing in guys. Shane Taylor should have been there a long time ago. It should not have taken them this long to get Shane Taylor on their TV. If you have not seen Shane Taylor, you're going to be in for a really good surprise. He's phenomenal. And yes, Final Battle is 7 days away. And the reason I know this is because it's happening the exact same time as my family Christmas party on my mom's side of the family. So I don't get to watch it live, and I'm mad about it. I mean, I'm very excited about the Christmas party. But
I always hold out and then end up
and in Final Battle,
I told Bob yesterday, the other day, I was like, I keep saying I'm not going to buy Final Battle, but I just want you to know that just plan to watch Final Battle next week.
I'm going to, and I keep meaning to post the final. I talked about it a few weeks ago, the Final Battle promo. That is my favorite. Like, Sign Our Math is my favorite promo, but Final Battle, but it's a promo from Best Friends is probably my second favorite promo ever, and it's really bad and it's hilarious, and they're cutting it on Motor City Machine Guns. And so anytime Final Battle comes up, we say it, Nikki and I say it just the way Trent says it in the clip, and I keep forgetting to tweet it, and now we're a week out, so I gotta tweet it. But I'm looking forward to Final Battle. I know some people are not, but it's gonna be good. We're gonna have I think there's going to be some good matches there. I am now, after watching Athena, she ran through Danny Moe in a minute and 33 seconds last night. She went after Aubrey again. I think they're going to put the title on her, which, again, I don't have a problem with Athena as a title. As a champion, I love Athena, but I really love Mercedes, and Mercedes has not gotten a good title run. Of course, she was injured through part of it, but she's also defending her title on YouTube. And so it's just really frustrating because I think they're gonna go with Athena.
I think
Athena,
they are too. I think
Athena is
the way they're playing her right now. They've got her
And then I did get excited. I know some people don't care, but I was very excited to see Juice Robinson on my TV. So I got to see him twice last night. So I was turning on New Japan. I was like, I'm turning on Strong, and here's Juice again. I get to see Juice twice in one night. So I'm excited. And so we're getting Juice versus Samoa Joe, which so I'm trying to remember. So his match with Wardlow is at Winter is Coming. Is that correct?
Yes.
But there's nothing between Joe and Hobbs yet, right?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And then
but I could be wrong.
And then he and
terrible with that shit.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm trying to. Yeah, I know. Yes, Joe and Juice is definitely
okay. That's what I thought.
So, yeah, it was. Yeah. So that's why I got confused last night. Is because then they showed the stuff about Wardlow, and I was like, wait, I think that's at Winter is Coming. Samoa Joe is getting all the matches, which I don't have a problem with, but I can't. Is Joe versus Juice only for the ROH TV title, or is it for both titles? It's just for
that. I don't know.
I think it's just for the ROH TV title. Could be wrong. Yes, Daza, 100%. Mercedes has never got the credit for what she's done for women's wrestling. 100,000,000%, which is why I don't want her to lose her title, and I want her to get an actual good run, but I don't think that's what's happening here.
Maybe when she's healthier, they'll keep, because I mean, they're not getting rid of her anytime soon. They've got her on contract.
No,
like, she can continue to be a force in the women's division in ROH. I think
we've that's been one of our biggest questions that you and I have had is what happens to the women's division in Ring of Honor when they can barely run the women's division AEW. Yeah. But you have to keep Mercedes as your anchor. You have to have her anchor that women's division there. And so I can see them putting the title on Athena. Hopefully they get their act together and sign Trish Adora. They've got Willow, but I don't know that you move Willow from AEW to ROH just because Willow is a star. I can see her being the TBS champion. Whether she's the one to finally beat Jade or if she's like the third person to hold it, I definitely see that for Willow. But yeah, I think you have to make Mercedes your anchor of the Ring of Honor women's division. So I do. Yes, Trish is great. Yeah, I love her.
We're big fans.
We talk about her all the time over here. So yes, we agree. So she is good. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to Final Battle. I know some people aren't. And then again, about the ROH being on TV, who gives a fuck? I'm going to find that Roddy gif. There was a gif I was going to post, or it's a clip of Roderick Strong, and I can't find the tweet anymore. So I don't know if the tweet got deleted or if the account got suspended or what happened to it, but it's this clip of Roddy, and he's on a, what the hell are those? The hoverboard, and he spins around, and he said, "Who gives a fuck?" And so that's what I think of. So last week when you asked me about what I thought about ROH being on AEW TV, that's what I think of. And so I wanted to tweet that, and I can't find the damn clip. But if you've seen the Roddy clip, that's exactly how I feel about ROH being on AEW. Who gives a fuck?
It's good. It's good.
Good wrestling. That I don't.
Good wrestling. Oh my god! Why do we have to have good wrestling on our TV every week?
God, who wants that?
Gross.
Gross. Yeah, exactly. Tony when he sees a woman's match. What? Who said that? Yeah, so I guess we should talk about the person that's on our who's on our the front of our
wow, I got to do this because I there's a few times in history where there's been a belt that I just really loved and I loved the Triple B. I think that it's the greatest thing ever. It had he even used the word fickle at one point, and
yeah, which makes me think he's setting up
rolled that out. The first thing I thought of was Bryan Danielson's he was Daniel Bryan then in WWE the year that we WrestleMania 35, where he had his vegan 100% recyclable, like, I love this concept with the right people. I know some people hate it. I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it was really
funny. So, do you think he's setting up because I obviously heard the fickle too? So I was like, is he setting up a feud with Danielson?
He should be,
or is this just because if he calls him a B+ player, then I think that's probably because with his Triple B belt and.
I mean,
so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm here for that. That sounds amazing. Let's do that.
So it sounds like, because we talked about it last week or whenever, maybe it was the episode before, but we talked about how obviously we want him to wrestle Jack Perry and reignite that feud, but they've got it, and then he's gonna face he's facing Ricky Starks at Winter is Coming, and so then he's got to have something to do between now and then. So do they do Danielson versus MJF at the Washington Dynamite? Even though that's where I would like them to see, I want them to do Danielson versus Shibata at that show. But
yeah,
they've got it. Regardless, Danielson has to do something big in.
Maybe it will be Danielson MJF in Washington.
Thing is, do you have Danielson lose to MJF that quick? Because MJF is not going to be losing the title anytime soon.
I mean, maybe there's shenanigans.
Probably.
If Regal's still around, he certainly could create shenanigans where he beats him, but it's not.
Yeah, they've got to have some. Yeah, and I don't know what to make of this whole Regal thing, because.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because somebody made the point that, because so earlier they were saying he signed a 3-year contract, but then I think BFI, I saw the clip that I saw a clip from BFI where Mike Gilbert was talking about how, I think it was Brian Alvarez said he may have had something in his contract that he could leave AEW if he was offered an executive position in WWE.
Yeah, he had an out clause. That seems to be the right. That seems to be the thing that's rising to the top of the believed in thing.
Yeah, and
that I'm catching from like the people that I care to pay attention to that seem to be the rightest, the mostest for me in my experience. I go with those people. So
so it seems like, I think it's, on the one hand, I think it's incredibly dumb, but on the other hand, I get it. And so and I get it, because that's been the question about, so Daza makes the point that the moment MJF started going out with WWE being bigger than AEW, I knew that people would get their knickers in a twist. To me, it was a perfect heel move, but that's been the question. How do you make people boo MJF? Because MJF has been getting cheered for a while now, and it's that same heel thing that Kenny Omega had a few years ago, where he was a heel and people were still cheering for Kenny, not in AEW, but when he was in New Japan, when he was in Bullet Club, people were still cheering him, even though he was.
People love heel Kenny.
Yeah, and me too. I love Hill Kenny. Hill Kenny is amazing. But then, and then even I think it was something with people were mentioning Naito too, a few years ago when Naito was supposed to be a heel. And people were still cheering for him.
Sounds to me like Tony needs to give Gato a call and help him work some of this.
Probably, but don't ask him how to book Evil. But
beyond Evil, Gato is Gato. We can forgive Evil because of all the other stuff Gato has given us over the years.
This is true.
He can't be perfect 100%.
No, he can't. And so, so I don't know. It was definitely, I think, a way to get MJF heel heat and to get him booed, because people love him so much, or a lot of people, they either love him or they love to hate him, which is his job. But
he certainly is continuing to want to try and be hated. So some people might want to love him because he's a hater, but he's gonna stay Hades. Yeah. So
and he's gonna keep doing, and of course he's gonna keep doing the shtick of what is this thing? The number one, not what is it? In 2024, the not free agent, because he had backed away from that and stopped saying it in promos, and then this week he was all about the great bidding war of 2024.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I knew it. I was like, hang on,
I'm a generational, Mr. Generational talent.
Yeah, and so and
that's okay. We'll see. I mean, we'll see.
And he's got and obviously the Triple
B. A lot can change in a year.
The Triple B obviously is, I think it's perfect for him and what he's doing and how he is, and having the Burberry.
I liked it. I'll always like that stuff. I know that some people hate
that's how he'll get booed.
You know what? I really, really like that stuff. I think it's really, as long as it's done properly and he's good enough to do it. So of course, he needed a belt to match him. So.
Yeah. So so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. It does. I can see, like, because I think Adam mentioned that there was TNA vibes with him turning right around, but it is who MJF is. So I'm not surprised that he used William Regal to get what he wanted. He convinced Regal to turn on his own faction to make him the champion, and then he turns around and that he used him. He got what he wanted, and he doesn't need him anymore. MJF doesn't think he needs anybody. So I'm not surprised that that's how that played out there. I mean, I would hate to see William Regal leave. I mean, I understand why he may want to go back to WWE and be in that executive position.
Well, and I mean, they built NXT, and there's a lot of people that were in NXT that were in there because of him, and I totally understand, like, the feeling. And if there isn't an AEW, like, it doesn't matter, but there is now, and it's
and he created this. And so what happens now, like, so if Regal is, because then we see Danielson got so upset, obviously, that he was hurt and William Regal was bleeding. Like, obviously I don't think that was planned, that William Regal was going to be standing up and be bleeding. I don't think that's where that was coming from. And then you have Danielson, who's standing outside. Danielson's the only one from Blackpool that came out there, even though Claudio has said, I can't focus on anything else because I have lost to Jericho again. And he said, I can't focus on anything. So last week. So that explains why he wasn't out there. Moxley was no longer in the building. Where was Yuta? Why didn't Yuta come? Why didn't he come with Danielson? Why didn't he come help William Regal? Does he care? So I think that's kind of interesting, like what happens to the Blackpool Combat Club, because they were one of the hottest factions they had. They're a very solid faction. And then, so now we have, Claudio is focused on winning the ROH title. He's probably going to be in JAS because that's clearly where this is headed. So then it looks like, and then they've got, I don't know what they do with Yuta. Because Yuta is wrestling, he's wrestling Garcia for the pure title at Final Battle. But then you have Danielson. Doing whatever he's going to be doing. And then Moxley's in a feud with Moxley, apparently is going to turn heel and is going to be against Hangman. And so Danielson doesn't really have anything to do unless they are doing Danielson versus MJF, which I guess that's how they're getting to this. Danielson is going to be so pissed at MJF for hurting William Regal that he's going to come for him. And that's what's going to happen. Maybe that's how we get to the January 4th match. Maybe they aren't going to do Shibata versus Danielson. Then maybe it's Danielson versus MJF. But like Adam pointed out, you can't have Danielson lose in his hometown.
Yep.
So unless it's going to be a non-title match. And then, or if they go, I think Adam also mentioned maybe having them
their first time wrestling in Seattle. I just don't think you can go that route.
Right. And then he did say, unless they go to a 60-minute time limit draw.
There you go.
Which I think Adam mentioned over in the comments. And so, Yuta the shooter, I like it. Yeah, I love Yuta. So yeah, it's interesting to see so I guess that's what they're doing. If in fact Regal is leaving, as it appears that he is, then I guess that's the catalyst for Danielson going after MJF, other than MJF doing the whole fickle thing and all that. He's probably going to call him a B+ player as soon as he gets done with Rookie Stars. So that's probably, I guess that's how they're getting to that, and that's going to be MJF's biggest feud. But I don't know how they get around having Danielson lose in Seattle. That's I guess it's going to have to be non-title. And because MJF did say, I'm not going to defend this title just whenever. He's like, I'm going to defend it when I want to, because his whole thing is work harder or work smarter, not harder. So maybe that
he's always making people jump through hoops to get challenges against
right.
him. That's all he does. He had trials with Jericho. He had all this.
Yeah,
Cody. He had all the shit with John Moxley. I mean,
well, and like with Wardlow and stuff like that. Yep. And so CM, not CM Punk, I was thinking about their thing, but so I could see Danielson, because Danielson doesn't care about the title right in this minute. He cares about the fact that Regal got beat after he stopped John Moxley from beating Regal's ass. Basically, he stopped him, but MJF turned around and knocked him out, made him bleed, had him stretchered to the hospital. So Danielson, I guess, in this moment does not care about the title. So maybe that's how they make it non-title, is because he just wants to get his hands on him Daza, I like it. Daza says in a non-sanctioned match.
That's an excellent idea. There we go. See? Nailed it. We solved it. There you go, Tony Khan. That one was free.
We know you're watching.
We know you're tuning into Powerbombshells, just like you always do on a different day than usual, because usually we're here 1 p.m. Eastern on Sundays.
But we're here a day early, and we're giving you free ideas.
Thanks.
Before we did a group project and got that booked for you, so you're welcome.
Yeah.
We'll talk about you booking women another time. All right.
Well, I think that was all that we had to jam on this week. We'll talk about
a short show for us.
Yeah, well, we've got things going on the network that you should subscribe to.
You should.
And it's a very minimum. You should check it out and go give your $5 a month to the Hall of Boom show that Sam and I were both involved with, and so are many, many members of the Fight Game Media Network.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
What a great show. Congratulations to those guys, James and Kevin. Killing it.
Yes.
Maybe I'm excited because I think that means that we're going to start doing more fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we'll do that again next year. And
yes.
I really appreciate that. And those guys, they deserve every single retweet and accolade. It was so awesome. And it was fun to have them bring everyone together.
It was. Yeah. It really was. And so, so next Sunday we will be back at our regular time. We'll be live again. But it'll be Sunday at 1 p.m.
At 1 p.m. time. Our normal time, and we will be regularly on there, except that just, be aware, it's the holidays, guys. So things change around a little, and then we'll be regular.
Yeah. But so we've mentioned it before, but plan on just us being live on Sundays at 1 o'clock Eastern time. You can find the audio version on different places where you listen to podcasts now. So if you prefer audio, you can check that out too. And then, of course, so even if you can't catch us live, definitely subscribe to the Fight Game Media YouTube, because that helps everybody out. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. I will do better about posting over there.
You do all right. You think too hard on yourself. You're getting there. We're working on it.
We are. But so thanks for Dasa says in 2023 him and Carissa and Lovell need to do a movie show on Fight Game Media. You should.
Totally.
That would be fun.
That would be a ton of fun.
Yeah. But so thanks for hanging out with us this week. And we will be live again next Sunday. And I'm sure you can we'll probably be tweeting throughout the week. And have a good week.
Have a good one.
Bye.